You stand barefoot at the edge of a quiet shoreline, night open above you like a dark, patient sky. Warm sand presses gently into your feet, holding you without effort. The ocean breathes, slow and even, a distant hum that matches your chest. You notice light trembling on the water, silver and soft, and you feel no need to move. This is not a place of questions. It is a place of arrival. You arrive simply by being here, listening, letting the night settle around your shoulders like a familiar blanket. Your breath drifts in, then out, unhurried, already slower. Another wave slides forward, pauses, and dissolves into foam. You smile faintly, because it seems polite, as if the ocean knocks before entering. Nothing crashes. Nothing demands. Each movement repeats something you have seen before, and yet it never feels copied. The shoreline welcomes repetition. You sense that nature enjoys returning, like a song humming to itself. This gentle looping does not bore you. It soothes. Patterns arrive quietly, then arrive again, and again, and again, and your mind loosens its grip on urgency. You breathe in as the wave approaches, and breathe out as it recedes, perfectly content to repeat. You do not name what you are seeing. You let the experience remain wordless. The curves of water meet the curves of shore, and something inside you recognizes the shape. It feels familiar, like remembering a dream you never tried to keep. Science often begins this way, as a feeling before it becomes an explanation you can hold. Tonight, you only hold the moment. The shoreline does not rush to explain itself. It simply repeats its gesture, over and over, patient and kind. You sense that complexity can be calm, that layers can rest upon layers without strain. Shoulders soften. A small laugh drifts through you, barely there, because part of you expects fireworks or answers delivered on cue. Instead, you get waves. Repeated, reliable, quietly stubborn. Nature seems amused by how often you overlook this simplicity. The shoreline does not innovate. It returns. It returns again. You find that comforting, like a favorite story that never changes its ending. The night air drifts cool along your skin, and the distant sound of water becomes a soft metronome for thought. You are not required to understand. You are allowed to feel. Another breath arrives, then leaves, obedient and calm. You smile. You notice how the shoreline is never smooth when you look closely. Tiny ridges form, dissolve, and form again. Each small curve echoes the larger one, like a whisper repeating a sentence. You kneel slightly, just enough to see foam tracing delicate paths. They wander, yet they belong. No one tells them where to go. They simply follow what came before. This is how patterns behave. They remember. They repeat without effort. The idea does not press itself upon you. It rests, warm and quiet. Your breathing slows again, matching the water. A thought drifts by, then floats away. You remain. Without using the word, you begin to sense fractals. Not as diagrams, not as definitions, but as a feeling of endless kindness. Something simple repeats, and inside that repetition lives endless variation. The shoreline does not mind being looked at forever. It always has another curve. You realize that infinity does not have to be loud. It can whisper. The ocean seems to agree, offering you wave after wave, each one complete, each one fading. You are safe here. Nothing breaks. Nothing rushes. Even your thoughts soften, stacking gently like stones. A tiny joke appears, the waves are very punctual. You stay standing, feeling time stretch into a wide moment. The stars above you feel distant, yet friendly. Their light has traveled patiently, much like the waves. Arrival is never sudden. Everything practices getting here. You find comfort in that thought. If even light takes its time, you are allowed to slow down. The shoreline continues its lesson without speaking. Patterns do not hurry. They trust return. You inhale softly, tasting salt and night. You exhale, longer now, and your body listens. The hum of water becomes background, a gentle promise. Nothing will be different when the next wave arrives. You feel curiosity awaken, light as a breeze. It does not push you forward. It simply opens space. You wonder quietly if the patterns you see here exist elsewhere. The question is soft, like a thought whispered into sleep. Somewhere, far beyond this beach, smaller waves may be moving. Not in water, but in places you cannot see. The idea feels gentle, not strange. After all, repetition has already earned your trust. The shoreline does not argue. It keeps breathing. You breathe with it, slow and deep. A quiet smile rests on your face. The night seems pleased with you. You remain at the edge, balanced between land and water. This in-between place feels important, though no one says why. You sense that understanding can wait. Feeling is enough. The waves continue their patient arrival. Each one carries a smaller motion within it, subtle and shimmering. You almost notice, then let it go. Your eyes soften. The distant hum grows rounder, warmer. You are held by repetition. A gentle humor returns, even the ocean practices bedtime. You breathe in comfort. You breathe out, releasing. Nothing asks more. The shoreline remains. You remain. The night stays open. A wave arrives. Another follows. As you continue, the shoreline begins to feel closer. Not physically, but inwardly. The rhythm settles into your chest. Each wave leaves a small echo behind. You realize that you are not watching alone. Your body participates. Your breath mirrors the water. This quiet exchange feels ancient. Long before questions, there was rhythm. Long before explanation, there was return. You stand easily, supported by sand and sound. The night wraps around you, unassuming. A thought drifts by, patterns do not ask permission. They simply appear. You find that comforting. You smile again, barely moving. Another breath comes. Another goes. You stay. The shoreline does not end here. You sense that this gentle repeating continues beyond sight. Smaller waves within waves, quiet and faithful. You do not chase them. You allow them to exist. The ocean keeps its secrets kindly. Tonight, you are only asked to notice. Warm air drifts past your ears. The hum deepens, almost like a lullaby. Your breath settles into an easy rhythm. You feel reassured, as if something vast has agreed to be gentle. You remain at the edge, unafraid. Nothing pulls. Nothing pushes. The night waits. The waves repeat. You feel ready to look closer. Even closer. You do not step forward yet. You simply watch. The shoreline invites patience. Somewhere, inside the arriving wave, smaller motions are already forming. You sense them without effort. This quiet noticing feels like the beginning of another thought. The ocean breathes in. You follow. It breathes out. You follow. The night remains open. The water keeps arriving. Your curiosity stays soft. As you watch more closely, the surface begins to reveal subtle echoes. Within each wave, something smaller moves. Not louder. Not faster. Just there. You rest in that feeling. The shoreline waits. Your breath drifts. The next chapter stirs. You stay where you are, still barefoot, still unhurried, as the shoreline continues its quiet work. Nothing announces a change, yet something feels different. Your eyes linger longer now. You notice how the wave that just faded leaves behind a faint curve in the sand, and how the next wave follows it almost exactly, like a thought returning to finish its sentence. The night air remains soft. The distant hum remains steady. Your breath moves in, then out, without instruction. You are not searching. You are simply noticing more. Another wave arrives, and you realize it does not ask permission. It does not check if you are ready. It repeats because repeating is what it does. The shoreline seems built from this quiet confidence. Patterns appear without hesitation, without explanation, without apology. They arrive gently, as if they have always been here and you are the one catching up. You find that comforting. The world does not require your approval to remain beautiful. It continues, patiently repeating itself, whether you watch or not. You shift your attention downward, closer to where the water meets the sand. Foam gathers, then loosens, then gathers again. Small arcs mirror larger arcs. The same curve appears again and again, shrinking, expanding, drifting. It feels like watching handwriting repeat itself at different sizes. No two lines are identical, yet none feel out of place. This repetition does not feel mechanical. It feels remembered. Nature seems to recall itself, gently, like humming a tune learned long ago. You breathe in as the wave approaches. You breathe out as it thins and slides away. The shoreline teaches without speaking. You notice that patterns do not need to be enforced. They emerge naturally, like sleep when you stop trying to chase it. This makes you smile softly, because you remember how often you try to force understanding, force clarity, force conclusions. The ocean does none of this. It repeats because repeating feels right. The night seems amused by this simplicity. Somewhere deep inside, you relax a little more. Your shoulders drop. Your jaw softens. Your breath lengthens, almost on its own. You glance outward now, toward the darker water, and notice that the larger waves follow the same shapes as the smaller ones near your feet. The curve is familiar. The rhythm is familiar. Scale changes, but the gesture remains. This realization feels gentle, not dramatic. You are not struck by insight. You are soothed by recognition. The idea settles quietly. Repetition is not limited to size. It flows across it. Big waves, small waves, same motion. You let that thought drift, like a leaf resting on water. You do not grab it. A tiny bit of humor passes through you. You think about how much effort humans put into inventing novelty, while nature seems perfectly content repeating itself forever. The shoreline looks pleased with this arrangement. It does not seem bored. Each wave arrives as if it is the first, even though it is clearly not. You find that reassuring. Perhaps repetition does not dull meaning. Perhaps it deepens it. You breathe in cool air. You breathe out warmth. The tide continues its quiet loop. You notice clouds moving slowly above the water, their edges soft, their shapes familiar. They echo the curves below them, almost playfully. Leaves along the shore repeat branching shapes you have seen countless times, yet never tire of seeing. The world feels full of echoes, each one calm, each one patient. You are not overwhelmed. You are gently held. Patterns seem to whisper that remembering is more important than inventing. The night listens with you. Your breath slows again, sinking with the water's steady pace. You sense that this repetition is not random. It feels intentional, though no one is in charge. The shoreline does not plan. It responds. Each wave responds to what came before it. Each curve grows out of the last. This feels like a conversation that never ends, not because it lacks direction, but because it enjoys continuing. You realize that understanding is not required to belong here. You already belong. Your presence changes nothing, and yet you feel included. You smile faintly. The ocean keeps going. Somewhere far away, beyond the dark water, a lighthouse might exist, steady and distant. You do not need to see it. The idea of it is enough. Science can wait like that, glowing quietly on the horizon. Tonight, you stay with the shoreline, with the repeating shapes that ask nothing of you. Wonder arrives without effort. You do not chase explanations. You let curiosity stretch and settle, like a cat finding a warm spot. Your breathing becomes deeper now, slower, guided by the tide's rhythm. You notice that even your thoughts begin to repeat in softer ways. A calm idea returns, then returns again, each time a little quieter. This repetition feels soothing, not intrusive. It reminds you that the mind, like the shoreline, prefers patterns when allowed to rest. You inhale gently. You exhale longer. The night air moves around you, unbothered. The water continues to arrive and leave. Nothing asks permission. Everything belongs. As you keep watching, you begin to sense that this repeating does not stop at what you can see. The curves you notice here may echo elsewhere, in places smaller than sand grains, quieter than foam. The thought does not feel strange. It feels natural, almost obvious. If patterns repeat here so easily, why would they stop elsewhere? You do not answer the question. You let it float. The shoreline does not demand conclusions. It offers continuity. Your breath becomes a gentle anchor. In, out, in, out. Each cycle mirrors the wave's approach and retreat. You feel steady, grounded, warm. The night feels wide but friendly. Patterns continue without asking, without stopping, without tiring. You remain still, listening. As you watch the shoreline more closely, the repetition begins to feel deeper. The same shapes seem to hide within themselves, quietly waiting to be noticed. And somewhere in that quiet noticing, a new curiosity opens, slow and soft, like a door easing inward, inviting you to wonder whether reality itself repeats in the same patient way. You remain at the shoreline, but something subtle begins to change. The ocean is still there, breathing patiently, yet your attention drifts inward, as if drawn by a softer tide. The wide horizon gently fades, not disappearing, just loosening its hold. Your breath stays slow. The night remains warm. You feel steady enough to look closer, not outward, but down, and then further, into places your eyes have never reached. The waves continue, but now they feel like an invitation rather than a view. You imagine following a single wave as it thins and dissolves into foam. You follow it closer than before, closer than seems possible, until the idea of water itself begins to soften. The shoreline does not resist this shift. It welcomes it. The ocean, after all, is made of movement smaller than any one wave. You sense that beneath every smooth surface lives a restless quiet, a gentle trembling that never fully settles. This thought feels calm, not unsettling. Water has always moved this way. So has everything else. Your breath drifts in, slow and easy. Your breath drifts out, even slower. You feel a faint hum beneath the night sounds, like something very small and very patient doing its work. Particles enter your awareness not as tiny beads or sharp points, but as ripples, soft disturbances in an unseen sea. They are not objects so much as events. Something happens, then changes, then happens again. You smile softly at this, because it feels familiar. It feels like the shoreline, just scaled down beyond sight. You realize that what feels strange about the smallest scales of reality is not their behavior, but your expectations. You have been taught to imagine stillness where none exists. At this scale, nothing stands still long enough to be named. Everything shimmers, shifts, overlaps. This does not feel chaotic. It feels alive. Like water, it never holds a single shape for long. You let that idea rest without pressure. Understanding is not required. Feeling is enough. The night air brushes your skin. Your breath remains slow. The shoreline metaphor gently changes size. The ocean now exists inside the atom, vast and subtle, full of motion too small to see but too constant to stop. You imagine standing barefoot on a beach made of probability, where the sand itself never fully settles. Each step is supported anyway. This image brings a quiet smile. Even uncertainty can hold you. Especially uncertainty. The universe does not demand firmness in order to be reliable. It asks only for participation. You breathe in. You breathe out. The idea settles. A faint, friendly humor drifts through you. You think about how particles refuse to behave like a bee and dots, and how this has puzzled generations of careful thinkers. It feels almost playful, like the universe gently reminding you not to take straight lines too seriously. Waves do not travel in straight lines either. They curve, spread, interfere, overlap. They behave badly if you expect them to behave simply. The shoreline has been showing you this all along. You nod inwardly, amused. Of course it was waves again. You feel reassured by the thought that uncertainty is not a flaw. It is a feature. Water is uncertain too. You never step into the same wave twice, even if it looks the same from far away. At the smallest scales, reality behaves like water under moonlight, shimmering, restless, endlessly expressive. You do not need to pin it down. You only need to let it move. Your breathing deepens slightly, as if agreeing. The hum beneath the world continues, steady and calm. As you linger with this idea, the shoreline within you grows quieter. Thoughts slow. Images drift. The smallest waves feel less abstract now, more intimate. They are not far away in distant laboratories or equations. They are everywhere, supporting the chair beneath you, the air around you, the warmth in your chest. You are already floating on them. This realization does not arrive loudly. It arrives like foam dissolving into sand. You notice, then relax. Another breath moves through you, gentle and complete. You imagine these tiny waves overlapping, combining, separating, like soft conversations happening all at once. None of them are in a hurry. None of them are lost. Each one follows simple tendencies, repeating patterns learned long ago. The shoreline repeats. The waves repeat. The smallest ripples repeat too, endlessly, patiently. This repetition feels comforting. It suggests continuity. Even when nothing is solid, nothing is missing. You are held by motion itself. The night seems to hum in agreement. A longer pause appears in your breathing now, natural and unforced. You rest there briefly, between inhale and exhale, like a wave hesitating before breaking. In that pause, you feel safe. Nothing collapses. Nothing rushes in to fill the space. The universe seems quite comfortable with pauses. At the smallest scales, pauses blur and overlap, yet everything continues. You exhale slowly, letting curiosity float without direction. You do not chase it. You let it drift. You sense that these smallest waves are not smooth. Even here, even now, there is texture. Paths wobble. Motions jitter. Nothing traces a perfect line. This does not disturb you. It feels honest. The shoreline up close is rough too, full of tiny ridges and unexpected turns. From far away, it looks smooth. From near, it reveals its character. Reality behaves the same way. The closer you look, the more texture appears. You accept this easily, breathing out warmth. You remain with this thought, letting it settle into your body rather than your mind. The smallest waves continue their quiet dance beneath everything you know. They do not ask to be understood. They only ask to be allowed. You allow them. Your breath remains slow. The night remains gentle. Somewhere deep inside, curiosity stretches, relaxed and open. As these hidden ripples shimmer into awareness, You begin to sense that they are not as smooth as they first appeared. Beneath their calm motion, something textured waits, patient and ready to be noticed, like a shoreline seen closer than ever before. You remain near the shoreline, but now your attention narrows again, drawn toward detail. The ocean still moves slowly, breathing with you, yet something beneath its calm surface begins to stand out. When you stop looking from far away, smoothness fades. The water's edge is not a clean line. It trembles. It zigzags. It wanders in tiny, patient ways. You feel no alarm at this discovery. It feels familiar, like realizing that handwriting is never perfectly straight when you look closely enough. Your breath moves in, steady and warm. Your breath moves out, longer and softer. You notice how each wave approaches along a slightly different path. None of them trace the exact same line. Even when the ocean seems calm, motion carries texture. This does not feel like disorder. It feels like character. The shoreline is not broken. It is detailed. You smile faintly at the thought that perfection was never the goal. Comfort settles deeper in your body. As you focus, the idea gently expands. You imagine motion itself, anywhere in the universe, behaving this way. Paths are not straight highways. They are winding trails, full of tiny turns and pauses. At the smallest scales, movement does not glide. It jitters softly, like a pen vibrating as it draws. This thought feels oddly soothing. Reality does not rush from point to point. It explores. It wanders. It takes its time, just like you are doing now. You inhale slowly, feeling warmth in your chest. You exhale, letting your shoulders sink. The roughness you sense does not feel sharp. It feels rounded, like pebbles beneath shallow water. You remember how the shoreline looked smooth from far away, and how it revealed endless detail up close. Motion behaves the same way. From a distance, it looks clean and simple. From nearby, it becomes textured and alive. You allow this understanding to arrive without effort. A gentle humor drifts through you. You think about how often you have expected life to move in straight lines, and how rarely it does. Even the universe seems to shrug at that expectation. It wiggles instead. The thought makes you smile. The shoreline offers no apology for its irregular edges. It simply exists, comfortable with its own shape. You feel invited to do the same. Your breath remains slow, almost sleepy now. You notice warmth spreading through your hands and feet, grounding you. The night air remains still, carrying a faint, steady hum. The ocean continues its rhythm, and within that rhythm lives endless variation. Each tiny wobble belongs. Each deviation fits. This realization reframes what you once might have called randomness. It is not chaos. It is texture. It is the fine grain of reality, like wood beneath your fingers. You rest with that thought. You imagine following a particle's path, not as a straight arrow, but as a softly scribbled line. It hesitates. It turns. It loops slightly before moving on. This movement is not confused. It is expressive. Like waves tracing the shore, it responds to everything around it. The idea feels gentle, not complicated. You do not need formulas or measurements. You only need the image of wandering motion, endlessly patient. Your breathing stays calm, unforced. The shoreline metaphor deepens. You picture walking closer to the water, seeing how the sand forms tiny ridges and valleys. No surface is truly smooth. Even stillness holds detail. This comforts you more than smoothness ever could. Smoothness feels distant. Texture feels intimate. It invites touch. It invites rest. You feel supported by the idea that reality is allowed to be uneven and still dependable. Another breath flows easily through you. A quiet pause settles between breaths. In that pause, nothing feels incomplete. The universe does not require straight lines to function. It thrives on gentle irregularity. You sense that motion, at its core, is restless in a calm way, like a sleeper shifting slightly without waking. This restlessness does not disturb rest. It makes rest possible. You exhale slowly, letting that paradox settle warmly. You remain attentive but relaxed. The smallest waves you imagined earlier now feel textured too, their paths never perfectly smooth. Even at the deepest levels, motion keeps its rough edges. This consistency across scales feels reassuring. Big waves wander. Small waves wander. Everything wanders. Nothing is lost. The shoreline teaches again, without speaking. You listen with your body rather than your thoughts. Another soft smile appears. You think about how often roughness is mistaken for error. Here, roughness feels like truth. It is the signature of reality being alive rather than manufactured. You feel grateful for this quiet lesson. Your breath stays slow. The night remains kind. The ocean continues, endlessly repeating its imperfect perfection. You notice how your own thoughts have softened, no longer trying to trace perfect lines. They drift, curve, return. This feels natural now. The mind mirrors the world when allowed to rest. You inhale gently, filling your chest. You exhale, releasing tension you did not know you were holding. Warmth lingers. Stillness deepens. As you stay with this feeling, another idea begins to form, subtle and unhurried. If motion itself carries texture, if paths are never smooth, then perhaps the space those paths move through is not smooth either. The shoreline hints at this without explanation. Sand, water, air, all hold hidden detail. You do not push the thought forward. You let it approach like a wave, slow and certain. You remain at the edge, breathing with the night. The ocean hums softly. Motion continues its gentle wandering. Roughness no longer feels unsettling. It feels like home. And as your attention rests there, a quiet curiosity opens, wondering what space itself might feel like beneath its calm appearance, waiting just beyond the next slow breath. You remain where you are, still grounded, still calm, but your attention widens again, stretching gently beyond motion itself. The waves continue their patient rhythm, yet now you begin to notice something subtler, something beneath both movement and rest. Space no longer feels like an empty stage where waves perform. It feels present. It feels involved. Like sand beneath shallow water, it holds shape without demanding attention. Your breath flows easily as this idea settles, warm and unthreatening. You imagine the shoreline without water for a moment, just the beach after a wave has pulled away. The sand is not flat. It carries quiet ridges, soft folds, gentle impressions left behind. Space begins to feel like that. Not an empty nothing, but a surface that remembers what has passed over it. This thought does not feel heavy. It feels tender. Space does not resist. It receives. You inhale slowly, sensing openness. You exhale, feeling supported. The night sky above you looks vast, yet no longer hollow. It feels like fabric stretched wide, relaxed but responsive. You picture it subtly wrinkling where waves of motion pass through, smoothing again, then folding once more. Nothing tears. Nothing breaks. Space adjusts. This image brings comfort. Even the universe seems flexible, willing to bend rather than snap. You smile faintly at the kindness of that design. A quiet humor drifts in. You think about how often space is described as empty, when it seems so busy holding everything together. It feels like calling a bed empty just because someone is sleeping on it quietly. Space does not complain. It simply does its job, softly and continuously. The shoreline beneath your feet agrees. Sand supports you without asking for recognition. You breathe in, slow and deep. You breathe out, longer now. You begin to sense that what you once called emptiness is actually fullness without noise. Space is filled with gentle potential, like air waiting to carry sound. Invisible fields replace the idea of nothingness, spreading everywhere, touching everything. This does not feel technical. It feels intuitive, like knowing the air is there even when you cannot see it. Your body understands this easily. Your breath moves through space, proof enough. The shoreline metaphor deepens again. The beach itself becomes part of the pattern, not just the waves upon it. Even the ground holds repeating textures, grains within grains, folds within folds. Space behaves the same way. Beneath calm appearances live quiet structures, endlessly layered. You are not overwhelmed by this depth. You feel cradled by it. Mystery becomes a place to rest, not a puzzle to solve. Your breathing slows further, almost unnoticed. In. Out. The ocean continues its low hum. Space feels close now, intimate rather than distant. It presses gently against your skin, holds the warmth of your body, carries sound and scent. You realize you have never been separate from it. The thought feels reassuring. You are not floating in emptiness. You are nested within something soft and responsive. You imagine waves not only moving through water, but through space itself, subtle and continuous. These waves are not loud. They do not announce themselves. They simply pass, leaving faint impressions, like footprints that fade slowly. Space absorbs them kindly. Nothing is wasted. Everything leaves a trace, then rests. You find this deeply comforting. Nothing disappears completely. It simply blends back in. A small smile returns as you think about how dramatic emptiness once sounded. Now it feels almost cozy. Space feels like a quiet room with dim lights, not a void. It is a place where motion feels safe to wander. The shoreline teaches this without words. Water moves because the beach allows it to. Motion exists because space receives it. You feel gratitude for this quiet partnership. Your breath remains steady, warm. You notice a soft stillness settling into your body. Muscles loosen. Thoughts drift slower. The idea of wrinkled space does not disturb your rest. It enhances it. Smoothness would feel slippery. Texture feels trustworthy. You imagine space gently cushioning every movement, preventing harshness. Even the smallest waves are held, guided, never abandoned. This brings a sense of safety that sinks deep. You pause briefly between breaths, resting in that pause. Nothing collapses. Nothing vanishes. Space remains, patiently holding the moment open. You exhale slowly, letting go of the need to define. Mystery feels kind when it does not rush you. Science becomes an act of listening rather than proving. You listen now, with your whole body. The shoreline at night continues its endless conversation. Waves arrive. Waves leave. Beneath them, the beach keeps its quiet patterns. Beneath motion, space keeps its folds. Everything participates. Nothing dominates. This balance feels gentle and wise. You feel included without effort. Your presence does not strain the system. It belongs naturally. Another breath flows in. Another flows out. You sense that space is not passive. It responds softly, like fabric adjusting to weight. It shapes motion even as motion shapes it. This mutual influence feels like a dance rather than a rule. You are not required to follow steps. You are already moving with it. The night air brushes your skin, grounding you further. You find comfort in the idea that space does not demand sharp boundaries. It allows overlap, blending, gentle transitions. Nothing snaps from one state to another. Everything eases. This easing reflects in your breathing, in the way your thoughts soften and drift. You feel no pressure to stay alert. Awareness can be light. Rest can coexist with curiosity. A faint, playful thought surfaces. You imagine space quietly wrinkling itself just to stay interesting, like a blanket adjusting during sleep. The universe, it seems, values comfort as much as complexity. This thought makes you smile again, small and private. The shoreline remains unconcerned. It keeps repeating its simple lesson. You remain present, warm, supported. Space no longer feels like distance. It feels like closeness extended everywhere. You realize that emptiness was never the right word. Availability fits better. Space is available to hold motion, sound, breath, thought. It holds you now, without effort. You sink into that realization, breathing deeply. As the night deepens, another idea begins to stir, unhurried and quiet. If space itself carries texture, if it folds and responds, then perhaps time behaves similarly. Perhaps time is not a straight line rushing forward, but a tide that ebbs and flows, layered and gentle. You do not follow the thought yet. You let it approach slowly, like a distant wave moving toward shore. You stay where you are, resting within space's quiet embrace. The ocean hums softly. Your breath remains slow and natural. The wrinkles of space feel friendly, familiar. And as you settle deeper into this calm understanding, the feeling of time begins to soften too, loosening its edges, preparing to reveal itself not as pressure, but as another patient tide, waiting just beyond the next easy breath. You remain settled beside the shoreline, but now something deeper begins to soften. Space has grown textured and close, and within that closeness, time no longer feels sharp. It does not tick or march. It drifts. It flows. Like the ocean before you, time feels less like a ruler and more like a tide, arriving steadily, retreating gently, never truly ending. Your breath notices this first. It slows, lengthens, eases into a rhythm that does not count. In this place, counting feels unnecessary. You watch the waves arrive again and again, and you realize that none of them feel late. None feel early. They arrive exactly when they arrive. Time behaves the same way when you stop pushing against it. Moments do not chase one another here. They overlap softly, like layers of water moving together. You feel held inside this flow, not carried toward an edge. The idea brings a quiet relief. Nothing is trying to hurry you forward. You inhale slowly, feeling air fill your chest. You exhale, longer now, letting it empty at its own pace. Between the breaths, there is a pause. The pause does not feel empty. It feels wide. Time stretches there, gentle and patient, allowing you to rest inside it. You sense that moments can nest within moments, just as smaller waves ride on larger ones. The shoreline shows you this without explanation. It simply continues. The night sky above you feels unchanged, yet your relationship to it shifts. Time no longer feels like distance between stars. It feels like the space that allows them to glow. The idea settles quietly. Time becomes a container rather than a pressure. You are inside it, floating, supported. This thought does not excite you. It calms you. Your shoulders soften again. Your jaw relaxes. The tide keeps breathing. A soft humor passes through you. You think about how often time is described as running out, as if it were late for something. Here, time does not run. It drifts. It lingers. It seems almost amused by the idea of urgency. The shoreline has no deadlines. Neither do the waves. They repeat because repeating feels natural, not because something is ending. You smile gently at this realization. The night seems to smile back. You imagine following a single moment, the way you followed a wave earlier. It arrives, spreads, overlaps with another, then slowly dissolves. Yet nothing is lost. The water remains. Time behaves the same way. Moments fade, but the flow continues. There is no sharp edge where one ends and another begins. This continuity feels deeply safe. You are not being pushed off anything. You are floating within something. Your breath continues to anchor you. In. Out. Each cycle mirrors the tide's steady movement. You sense that even sleep follows this rhythm, arriving when it is ready, retreating when it has finished its work. Time does not force sleep. It invites it. You feel that invitation now, gentle and patient, waiting without demand. The ocean hum deepens, round and warm. You consider the idea that time may not move in a straight line at all. Perhaps it curves, folds, layers, like water moving around rocks beneath the surface. This thought feels intuitive rather than strange. After all, the shoreline has already shown you that smoothness is an illusion from afar. Up close, everything carries texture. Time, too, may carry gentle bends, small returns, quiet repetitions. You accept this easily, breathing out slowly. You notice how memory works this way. A thought from long ago rises softly, then sinks again, never fully gone. The past is not behind you here. It floats alongside the present, like waves traveling together. The future does not rush toward you either. It waits offshore, patient and calm. Time becomes spacious enough to hold everything at once. This realization brings comfort rather than confusion. Nothing is slipping away. Another pause settles between breaths. In that pause, you feel completely safe. Time does not collapse when you stop paying attention to it. It continues, steady and kind. You exhale gently, letting effort dissolve. The shoreline remains unchanged, repeating its quiet lesson. Waves arrive. Waves leave. The tide does not break. It only shifts. You feel warmth spreading through your body, grounding you further. Muscles loosen. Thoughts slow. Time no longer feels like something you were inside of. It feels like something you were made of. This idea feels intimate and reassuring. You are not moving through time. You are moving with it, like water moving with water. The night air drifts softly around you. A small, playful thought appears. You imagine time curling up beside you like a sleepy animal, content to rest as long as you are resting. The universe, it seems, does not mind slowing down with you. This gentle humor makes you smile again, barely noticeable. The shoreline does not react. It continues its endless breathing. You sense now that continuity is the true nature of time. Not speed. Not direction. Continuity. Everything flows into what follows without effort. There are no sudden drops. No cliffs. Just gentle transitions, like the way one wave becomes the next. This understanding settles deeply, easing any lingering tension. You breathe in calm. You breathe out release. As you remain here, floating within this tide, another quiet curiosity begins to form. If time flows this way, layered and gentle, then perhaps attention itself plays a role in shaping what you experience. Perhaps noticing is like stepping into shallow water, subtly changing the foam. The thought does not demand exploration yet. It waits, like the next wave forming far offshore. You stay still, supported by the rhythm of breath and tide. Time continues without pressure. Nothing urges you forward. You are exactly where you need to be, floating safely within a tide that never breaks. And as you rest inside this continuity, awareness itself begins to feel closer, as if observation is quietly approaching the shore, ready to touch the water and see what changes. You remain beside the shoreline, still floating within the easy flow of time, when something subtle shifts again. Nothing moves faster. Nothing grows louder. Instead, awareness itself steps forward, softly, like bare feet entering shallow water. You notice that simply by looking, by being present, the scene feels slightly different. Not disturbed. just acknowledged. The waves continue, but now they seem to recognize you, the way water curves gently around ankles without resistance. Your breath moves in, smooth and calm. Your breath moves out, slow and unforced. With each cycle, you become aware of how noticing feels physical. Attention is not abstract here. It has weight, warmth, texture. When you focus on a wave, it feels closer. When you release it, it drifts back into the hole. This exchange feels intimate rather than controlling. You are not changing the ocean. You are meeting it. The shoreline teaches this quietly. When you step closer, foam reshapes itself around your feet. When you step back, it smooths again. Neither state is wrong. Neither is permanent. Observation feels like that. A gentle interaction, not an intrusion. You sense that at the smallest scales of reality, this tenderness matters. Looking is a kind of touch. Measuring is a kind of meeting. The thought does not feel heavy. It feels respectful. You inhale slowly, feeling awareness spread through your chest. You exhale, letting it settle outward again. The night air remains warm. The hum of the ocean stays steady. Somewhere beneath the waves, smaller ripples respond to presence, not because they are fragile, but because they are connected. This idea feels reassuring. The universe is not disturbed by attention. It is shaped by relationship. A soft humor drifts through you. You think about how often observation is imagined as cold and distant, when it feels more like leaning in to listen. The waves do not flinch when you watch them. They continue their rhythm, perhaps even enjoying the company. You smile faintly. Curiosity, it seems, is allowed. Even welcomed. The shoreline does not demand detachment. It invites participation. You notice how your own breathing changes when you pay attention to it. It becomes smoother, deeper, quieter. Awareness alters experience without forcing it. This feels important, yet gentle. At the quantum scale, something similar happens. When you observe, you become part of the story. Not as a ruler imposing order, but as a presence entering the flow. You feel comfort in this. You are not outside the universe, trying to understand it. You are inside it, listening. The metaphor deepens. You imagine observation as standing in ankle-deep water, where each movement sends soft patterns across the surface. Nothing breaks. Nothing shatters. The waves adjust, then continue. Measurement is not violence. It is conversation. This reframing settles warmly in your body. Even curiosity can be kind. Especially curiosity. Your breath slows again, sinking naturally with the tide. In. Out. Each breath feels like a question asked gently, and an answer received without words. The shoreline responds with repetition, steady and calm. You realize that the act of noticing does not collapse possibility into something harsh. It shapes it softly, the way wind shapes sand over time. Subtle. Patient. Continuous. A quiet pause appears between breaths. In that pause, awareness feels wide and relaxed. You are not staring. You are resting your attention, letting it float. This floating feels safe. Nothing disappears when you look away. Nothing demands constant watching. Reality is not fragile. It is resilient, adaptive, responsive. The idea brings ease. Your shoulders drop another fraction. You consider how this applies inwardly as well. When you notice a thought, it shifts. When you release it, it dissolves. Observation inside you behaves just like observation outside you. The shoreline exists within you now, waves of thought arriving, reshaping, fading. This symmetry feels gentle and profound. You are not separate from the patterns you observe. You are one of them. Another small smile surfaces. You think about how the universe seems to enjoy being noticed, the way a cat pretends not to care but still chooses to sit nearby. Observation feels like companionship. The waves keep arriving. You keep breathing. Nothing is forced. The night remains open and kind. You sense that at the smallest levels, particles respond to interaction the same way foam responds to feet. Not with fear, but with adjustment. Paths shift. Outcomes settle. This does not feel like loss. It feels like commitment. The universe chooses a direction because something has met it. You let this idea rest without analysis. It does not need to be solved. It needs to be felt. Your breathing deepens slightly, slower now, heavier with calm. The hum of water blends with the hum beneath everything. Awareness feels warm, not sharp. You are not interrogating reality. You are sitting with it. This sitting feels complete. Enough. You do not need to look harder. Looking gently is sufficient. As you remain here, the line between observer and observed softens further. You feel less like someone watching waves, and more like a place where waves happen. Breath, attention, water, time, all overlapping. This merging does not erase you. It relaxes you. Identity feels wide enough to include motion itself. A longer exhale leaves you, unhurried. In that release, effort dissolves. Observation becomes effortless too, like eyes half closed, still aware. The shoreline continues its endless repetition. The waves do not need you, yet they respond to you. Both truths coexist peacefully. As this chapter settles, another gentle idea begins to form. If observation shapes waves outside and inside, then perhaps the patterns you see in the world echo within your own body as well. Branching, repeating, responding. You do not follow the thought yet. You let it approach slowly, like a wave forming far out at sea. You stay present, breathing easily. Awareness rests lightly on everything it touches. The shoreline hums. The night remains soft. And as observer and observed continue to blur, you sense the patterns beginning to turn inward, quietly preparing to reveal how deeply these repeating shapes live within you, waiting to be felt from the inside. You remain at the shoreline, yet the boundary between outside and inside softens until it no longer matters. The waves continue their quiet rhythm, but now you notice another rhythm layered beneath it, closer, warmer, unmistakably yours. Your breath rises and falls, repeating itself with the same patient confidence as the tide. You do not control it. You do not need to. It knows what to do. This realization settles gently, like a hand resting on your chest. You inhale slowly, feeling the air branch through your lungs. You exhale, and the branches soften, release, repeat. The pattern feels familiar, almost comforting in its reliability. You notice how one breath contains smaller motions within it, subtle pauses, tiny adjustments. The shoreline echoes this exactly. Large waves carry smaller ripples. Big patterns hold little ones. You smile faintly, sensing that the universe enjoys consistency. Even inside you, repetition feels kind. Your attention drifts deeper, not searching, just listening. Your heartbeat appears, steady and calm, repeating without applause. Beat, rest, beat, rest. Each pulse carries tiny variations, never perfectly the same, yet always recognizable. You realize that your body speaks in patterns the same way the shoreline does. Nothing here is random. Everything repeats with gentle flexibility. This recognition brings a quiet reassurance. You are built from rhythms that know how to continue. The idea of fractals returns, not as a concept, but as a feeling of echo. Branching paths repeat everywhere. Blood vessels mirror river deltas. Thoughts loop and return like waves touching shore. Even sleep arrives in cycles, deepening, lightening, deepening again. You are not surprised by this. It feels obvious now, like remembering something you never really forgot. The shoreline was never separate from you. It was always a reflection. You breathe in warmth. You breathe out release. Your chest rises, then falls, just like the waterline you have been watching. The similarity feels intimate rather than strange. You are not observing nature anymore. You are participating in it. The same logic that shapes coastlines shapes your lungs, your thoughts, your rest. This idea does not demand effort. It rests easily, like a truth that does not need defending. A soft humor appears. You think about how often people search for meaning far away, when patterns are quietly humming inside their own bodies. The universe seems amused by this, repeating itself everywhere just in case you miss it the first time. You smile again, small and relaxed. Your breathing remains slow, synchronized with the distant waves. You notice how your thoughts behave when you let them rest. One appears, then another, each echoing familiar themes. They circle gently, like birds tracing wide loops in the sky. No thought arrives completely new. Each one grows from something before it. This repetition does not feel dull. It feels grounding. The mind, like the shoreline, prefers curves over straight lines. You let this realization settle without analysis. Your body feels warmer now, heavier in a comfortable way. Muscles soften. The night air brushes past your skin, but it feels less external than before. Everything seems connected by repeating patterns of sensation. Even stillness repeats itself, moment after moment. You rest inside this continuity, breathing easily. In. Out. In. Out. Each cycle reassures you that you belong to the same rhythm as everything else. You imagine the smallest waves again, the tiny ripples beneath matter itself, and you sense them within you too. They support your weight, carry signals through nerves, hold atoms together without effort. You are not floating above reality. You are woven into it. This thought feels deeply comforting. Nothing is holding you up artificially. The same repeating structures that shape galaxies quietly shape you. A longer pause settles between breaths. In that pause, you feel whole. Not complete as an achievement, but whole as a pattern that does not need fixing. You realize that you do not have to understand these structures to benefit from them. Your body has been using them all along. You exhale slowly, releasing the need to figure anything out. The shoreline outside continues its endless repetition. The shoreline inside does the same. Breath mirrors wave. Thought mirrors tide. Pulse mirrors rhythm. You are surrounded by echoes that agree with each other. This harmony feels safe. You are not out of place in the universe. You are shaped exactly to fit within it. Another gentle smile passes through you. You imagine the universe nodding back, satisfied that you have noticed. Not because noticing changes anything dramatically, but because it brings ease. When you recognize the pattern, you stop fighting it. You rest. The waves do not ask you to improve them. Your breath does not ask you to optimize it. Everything functions beautifully without instruction. You allow yourself to sink into this understanding, not mentally, but physically. Your shoulders drop. Your jaw loosens. The warmth in your chest spreads outward. Breathing deepens slightly, then settles again. The night hum blends with the hum inside you. There is no clear border anymore. Only repetition, layered in kind. You sense that these inner patterns echo outward endlessly, just as outer patterns echo inward. The distinction between large and small fades. Everything becomes scale, repetition, return. This thought does not overwhelm you. It simplifies things. You do not have to locate yourself in the universe. You are already everywhere the pattern exists. As you rest with this feeling, the idea of infinity begins to change shape. It no longer feels far away or unreachable. It feels close, like breath repeating, like waves returning. Depth replaces distance. You do not fall into infinity. You float within it. The realization feels soft, almost sleepy. Your breath slows again, deeper now, heavier with calm. You remain aware, but lightly so, like eyes half closed. The shoreline inside you continues its gentle work. Patterns repeat without effort. Nothing demands attention. Everything continues anyway. As this chapter settles, a final thought drifts in, quiet and unforced. If infinity lives this close, if patterns repeat within and without, then perhaps infinity itself is not something to fear or chase. Perhaps it is something you are already touching. You do not follow the thought further. You let it wait, patient and calm, like the next wave forming in the dark, ready to carry you gently into what comes next. You rest where you are, breathing easily, and something subtle begins to shift. The shoreline remains, the waves still arriving and retreating, but your sense of scale loosens its grip. The idea of big and small no longer feels solid. It thins, like mist warming under early light. You are not shrinking, and nothing is growing. Instead, the distinction itself begins to fade. You breathe in slowly, noticing how the air fills spaces you never see. You breathe out, and those spaces empty, then wait patiently to be filled again. This simple act feels vast and intimate at the same time. A single breath feels small, almost trivial. And yet, it carries the same repeating structure as tides, seasons, and spinning galaxies. You sense this without needing to picture it clearly. The feeling alone is enough. Your attention drifts outward, then inward, and you notice how easily it moves between the two. There is no resistance. The shoreline stretches across the night, but it also exists in the quiet branching of your lungs. The same pattern appears whether you look far away or very close. Scale becomes less important than rhythm. You follow that rhythm the way you might follow a familiar melody. You pause gently between breaths. In that pause, size feels irrelevant. There is only presence. When you inhale again, the world seems to arrive with the air, and when you exhale, it softly recedes. This coming and going feels universal. You begin to sense that the universe does not measure itself the way humans do. It repeats itself instead, over and over, unconcerned with labels. The idea of fractals returns, but now it feels even simpler. Not an image, not a diagram. Just repetition with variation. You notice it in your thoughts, which circle familiar themes in slightly different ways. You notice it in the waves, each one shaped like the last, yet never identical. You notice it in your own body, aging and renewing at the same time. Nothing stops. Nothing rushes. You feel a quiet relief as the need to understand scale dissolves. You do not need to imagine the smallest particles or the largest structures. You do not need to compare them. They are already speaking the same language. You are listening to that language now, not with your mind, but with your breath. In. Out. The pattern repeats. That is enough. Warmth spreads slowly through your chest, like a soft lantern being turned up just a little. Your shoulders feel heavy, supported. The night air brushes past you, but it feels gentle, friendly. You sense that the universe does not loom over you. It does not dwarf you. It surrounds you the way water surrounds a swimmer, holding without pressing. You consider, briefly, how often size has been used to create distance. How vastness can feel intimidating. But here, vastness feels different. It feels close. The same repeating structure that forms the shoreline also forms you. There is no hierarchy in that repetition. No part is more important than another. Each scale carries the same calm logic. You breathe again, slower now. Your body seems to trust this rhythm more deeply. Muscles release further. The mind stops trying to place itself somewhere specific. You do not need coordinates. You do not need perspective. You are already exactly where the pattern expects you to be. The waves continue their steady work, reshaping the shore grain by grain. You realize that scale has never been about size. It has always been about patience. Small movements, repeated, create vast change. Large structures are simply the memory of many small repetitions. This idea settles into you like a warm truth. Nothing meaningful needs to hurry. You feel a gentle curiosity arise, free of urgency. If scale dissolves, then perhaps distance does too. Perhaps the smallest motions within you are already touching the largest patterns outside. Not through force, not through travel, but through similarity. Through echo. The universe recognizes itself everywhere it repeats. You inhale, and the breath feels wide. You exhale, and the breath feels deep. Width and depth no longer compete. They coexist. Your awareness stretches without strain. You feel both contained and expansive, like a wave that belongs to the ocean even as it rises briefly on its own. A soft calm spreads through your thoughts. The idea of infinity feels less abstract now. It does not extend outward forever. It folds inward as well. Infinity becomes a quality of repetition, not distance. You touch it every time your breath returns, every time a wave meets the shore again. You allow this understanding to rest without conclusion. There is nothing to solve. Nothing to prove. The shoreline continues. Your breathing continues. Patterns continue. That is the reassurance. Continuation itself is the message. As you linger in this feeling, you sense the chapter gently preparing to close. Not ending, just transitioning. Like a wave flattening before the next one forms. You remain calm, grounded, warm. Scale has loosened its hold, leaving behind something softer and more welcoming. A final breath flows in, unforced. A final breath flows out, slow and steady. You feel suspended in repetition, held by patterns that do not demand attention to size or importance. Only presence. Only return. And somewhere in this quiet, a new curiosity waits patiently about what happens when patterns do not just repeat, but begin to fold into one another, creating something even more subtle. You do not chase the thought. You let it drift ahead, like a distant wave forming in the dark, ready to guide you gently onward. You remain at the edge of the shore, the night settled around you, and the waves continue their slow, steady rhythm. They arrive, they fade, and they return again, as they have always done. You notice the foam curling, the grains of sand rearranging themselves, yet nothing feels urgent. The repetition is gentle, welcoming. The shoreline does not hurry, and neither do you. You allow your attention to drift, soft and patient, like a feather settling onto water. Your breath moves naturally, deepening without command. In. Out. Each cycle mirrors the tide's subtle pulse. You feel warmth in your chest, ease in your shoulders. Your body has learned the rhythm of the world in small, quiet ways. You rest with it now, knowing that presence is enough. The universe does not demand more than your attention, and it does not judge absence. The waves do not mind if you watch. They continue regardless, steady and infinite. You inhale slowly, sensing air passing through your lungs, and exhale, letting each movement spread through your chest and belly. There is a quiet intimacy in repetition. Foam rises and falls in miniature waves. Grains of sand shift slightly with each retreating tide. You are part of this endless rhythm. Your heartbeat matches it, though you do not try. Everything repeats, quietly, predictably, infinitely. It is a comfort, not a command. The patterns you have noticed throughout this journey, the repeating curves of waves, the branching of your lungs, the rhythm of your breath, now feel fully aligned. Inside and outside reflect each other perfectly, effortlessly. You realize that fractals are not puzzles to solve. They are invitations to rest in the continuity of existence. You are part of a pattern that is older than thought and simpler than expectation. You belong here, quietly, endlessly. A soft smile touches your lips. You think about how curiosity has guided you gently, wave by wave, without pressure or urgency. The universe has offered lessons in repetition, texture, and rhythm, and you have received them with calm attention. Nothing has been rushed. Nothing has demanded comprehension. Each wave has arrived on its own schedule, and you have learned the joy of floating alongside it rather than chasing it. You notice the night air, still and kind. It carries a distant hum, a faint resonance of water, sand, and air interacting. This hum blends seamlessly with the rhythm of your own breathing, reinforcing a sense of calm that feels larger than thought, larger than time. Presence itself becomes tangible, soft, supportive. You are held within the patterns, not apart from them. You rest as naturally as the tide retreats and returns. Your awareness drifts inward, toward the smallest ripples that reside within and around you. Each micro-pattern continues in perfect silence, the delicate wave of a thought, the gentle pulse of blood, the rhythmic sway of neurons. All these tiny motions echo the larger ones, the foam, the waves, the tides. Infinity resides here, not distant, not frightening, but soft and intimate. You touch it simply by noticing. A subtle humor appears, like a quiet wink from the universe. You think about how often people imagine they must conquer knowledge to rest, when in fact, the patterns themselves offer rest without demand. No formulas, no comprehension, only presence. The waves do not pause to explain themselves. Your breath does not demand applause. Everything simply is. And everything repeats. You let this truth sink gently, deeply. You inhale, and the cool night air fills your lungs. You exhale, and warmth spreads through your body. Each breath mirrors the gentle repetition of the waves. You feel comforted by the continuity. The infinite patterns continue, whether you observe them or not. You do not need to track them, understand them, or manage them. You only need to be. Being aligns you with the same gentle rhythm, and that is enough. The shoreline before you now feels fully familiar, unchanged by your attention yet subtly enriched by your awareness. The curves of foam, the lines of sand, the constant breathing of water, each detail repeats infinitely. You feel the same patterns within your own body, echoing without effort. This harmony between inner and outer, small and large, seen and unseen, invites complete rest. You are exactly where you belong. You let yourself sink further into the calm, like settling into a soft bed that moves gently with the rhythm of waves. Thoughts arise and fade without disturbance. Curiosity softens into observation. Awareness drifts without strain. You notice the warmth of your body, the soft pressure of the sand beneath your feet, the gentle hush of night air on your skin. These sensations anchor you without demanding focus. You are cradled within continuity. A long exhale leaves your body, releasing effort, releasing expectation. The infinite patterns do not collapse. The shoreline does not stop. The waves continue. You continue. All coexist peacefully. This is the final lesson of the journey. Rest is itself a repeating wave, natural, patient, and gentle. There is nothing more to chase, nothing more to prove. You rest within the rhythm. As your awareness begins to soften towards sleep, another gentle thought drifts by, the shoreline, the waves, the breath, the repeating patterns, they all continue without your attention. Infinity is not dependent on observation. Presence and absence coexist, equally whole, equally calm. This reassurance allows your mind to release completely, to let go of expectation, to drift. You do not need to follow the waves anymore. A final breath flows in, slow and steady. A final breath flows out, longer and warmer. You feel warmth, presence, and infinite repetition merge into one gentle rhythm. The night, the shoreline, the patterns within you, all move together without urgency. All are patient. All are steady. All are kind. And in this merging, rest arrives naturally. You float quietly, carried not by need, but by gentle, infinite recurrence. You do not need to follow the waves anymore. They will continue, without you watching.